Thanks for joining us today. We wanted to just take some time to talk about something that is really important and matters to all of us, and that is trust and safety in the auto transport industry. We know that in the industry, we are seeing a challenge with fraud. And at Central Dispatch, we have made it a top priority to provide a secure and reliable marketplace so that our customers and the industry as a whole can ship vehicles safely and securely. So this is really some answers to a Q&A that we have today. And it's just one of the ways that we are listening to you all. We want to directly address the questions that you all have and that you've shared with us. We appreciate you all providing your feedback, and we're here to help answer some of those questions and clarify what we're doing and what you can do and how we can move forward together to collaborate and address this industry challenge. So maybe just to start with a couple quick intros, and then we can jump into the questions. I'm Lainey Sybil, and I lead the Central Dispatch business.
Hi, and I'm Caleb, and I lead our marketplace integrity efforts for Central Dispatch.
Awesome. So maybe let's start with one of kind of the foundational questions, and one that we heard the most. And that is one around, what protections do you all have using the Central Dispatch platform? So I want to start out by saying, I want to assure everyone as the logistics marketplace, Central Dispatch is continually innovating and investing across our operations and our platform to enable quick and secure vehicle transport. We're doing things like providing protections on the platform. We're monitoring user behavior. We're offering security enhancing tools and solutions to all of our users. And then we're, of course, responding to reported incidents when we do find any issues have occurred. We're doing things like utilizing the power of the great Cox Automotive cybersecurity team to monitor for bad actors. We're monitoring the dark web. We're taking down phishing sites. As I mentioned, we are providing our users with tools that allow the execution of vehicle transportation transactions to be as safe and secure as possible. We provide tools like user management so that not everyone is sharing a username and password. Everyone has their own login with their own permission levels. We have great company profiles for every single user on the Central Dispatch platform, where you can see how long a company has been active on the platform, what are their credentials with the FMCSA, what kind of ratings do they have from other companies that they have done business with in the past. And then we provide great tools to actually facilitate that transaction. So tools for dispatching, for assigning a specific driver, not just a company, a mobile app for carriers to use to inspect vehicles at pickup and drop off and provide real-time tracking on where the vehicle is throughout that entire transportation process. So we're providing a lot of really, really great tools. But, at the end of the day, the transaction is really between the shipper and the carrier. So while we are providing these great tools, we're doing a lot of verification. We also recommend that you all, our users, take some extra steps to do your own verification as well before entering into any kind of transaction.
Awesome. We also received another question. Why do you allow companies that have multiple bad ratings, including fraud, to still operate? I really appreciate this question, and it kind of gets down to the root of what we do every day here at Central Dispatch. I will say that we take fraud and fraudulent activity and reports of fraud extremely seriously. We do not allow fraudulent companies to operate when we have knowledge of it. And there's many things that we actually do to identify fraudulent activity. We actively monitor the ratings that are submitted on our platform. And if there are clear signs of fraudulent activity, we investigate, and we don't hesitate to remove companies who have been found to have been committing fraud. We've also introduced some real-time analysis, including risk analysis and risk reporting, to help proactively identify fraud before it occurs. In summary, there are a multitude of things that kind of go into a fraud report, and we do want to make sure that we take a holistic view of the scenario before we take action, but we don't hesitate in taking that action and removing companies that no longer need to be on the platform.
So let's next move over to a question that we heard, and I'd love to kind of demystify a myth here. So one of the statements that we heard or questions asked was around, why don't we notify others once we have determined that someone is fraudulent or someone has been accused of being fraudulent? I want to start by saying that that is absolutely not correct. We do step in and take proactive action, and I understand the concern here. So when there is a carrier who is accused of something as serious as vehicle theft, it of course raises a risk for anyone who might be involved. That said, we have a lot of customers, a lot of transactions flowing through Central Dispatch. And of course, we take our responsibility to verify the facts very seriously before we take any kind of action. So we have a great fraud response team. We are investigating all reports thoroughly. And when we ultimately determine that there is clear evidence of misconduct or fraud, we take very swift action, including removing the fraudulent or the bad actor from our platform, and then notifying others who we believe could potentially be impacted to protect them from becoming victims. So we definitely take a really strong stance here. And this year alone, we have already removed well over 900 different companies from the Central Dispatch platform. So, just demonstrating we don't hesitate here. We take it very seriously.
Absolutely. And to kind of add on to that, in addition to the bad actor companies that have already been removed from the platform, Central Dispatch today reviews applications as well. And before we even allow somebody on the platform, we take extensive measures to make sure that they are who they say they are. And so, in addition to the 900 that have been removed from the platform, there's been countless others that have been prevented from joining the platform in that same spirit.
It's a really
There's another really great question that was asked around, why have you allowed fraudulent companies to pose as real ones? I would also kind of like to clarify some myths around this one as well. Central Dispatch does not allow fraudulent companies that are posing as other companies to join Central Dispatch. We have heard of instances in which companies have made it on the platform that do not actually represent the company that they are claiming to be. But we do have a very robust verification process. We have extensive onboarding processes that our team members follow to make sure that we are investigating credentials, reviewing authority, checking with the FMCSA to make sure that this company actually has legitimate authority to operate on our roads. And additionally, there are some things that we are working on in the background at Central Dispatch and may roll out in the future, such as identity verification and additional controls to help basically identify companies before they actually make it on the platform.
Great. So another question we heard, and this is a great one, is how as shippers can we be sure that the carrier is not fraudulent? What can we do here? And I love this one because one of the things that we're very focused on is best practices. And we are taking our commitment to educate our users in the industry as a whole on how to stay safe very, very seriously. So Central Dispatch is providing our shippers with great tools to verify a carrier before doing business with them. We really just need to make sure everyone's using them. So what specifically am I talking about here? Well, before you decide to work with the carrier, we would recommend you go to the carrier's company profile page. You look at their ratings. What have others said about that carrier when they've transacted with them before? You think about, when you buy something on Amazon, you're buying dish towels, let's say, and they cost $10, and you look at those reviews to see what others have said about those dish towels. Did they work? Did they wipe things up? Were they a good bang for your buck? And so we'd really recommend you do the same thing here before deciding to have a carrier move your very expensive asset. You can check on that company profile. When was the company created? When did they join Central Dispatch? And you want to think about, if you have a high value vehicle you're moving, you want to feel really good about who you're deciding to enter into business with. So really taking all of these things into account. Then once you decide I am going to work with this carrier, we'd recommend that you require that your carrier designate a specific driver to pick up that vehicle. so that at the pickup location, that representative or that agent at the location is not only looking at, is this the carrier that should be picking up the vehicle, but also, is this the person who should be picking up the vehicle? And they can, review the identity of that individual. We also at Central Dispatch, through our mobile app, provide real-time tracking on where the location of your vehicle is, all the way from pickup to delivery. So again, mandate that your carrier use the app and provide that real-time tracking right back to you. And then from an insurance standpoint, we'd recommend ask to be added as an additional insured on the carrier certificate of insurance, and request proof that this action was taken. I recognize, these are some extra steps. It's going to take a bit of extra time up front, but it can absolutely save time and headaches down the road.
We received another great question. How do I know fraud is happening? Similar to the previous question around steps that you can take to help protect yourself from fraud, there's some similar things that you can watch out for to identify if fraud is happening before you fall victim to it. A couple of telltale signs are conflicting information. So if the company that you have booked transport with does not match the individual who is showing up to pick up the vehicle, that's a pretty good sign that they may not be acting in good faith, and that you may be present with a bad actor. We would recommend that you verify information on their profile on Central Dispatch with information that shows up on the FMCSA. To that end, we've also provided the FMCSA verification checklist so that our users can identify whether information matches or whether there may be a mismatch, so that you can do your own additional vetting as well. You could also pay attention to things like the load details. If there's load details that are unusually vague or don't have all the information that you would expect to see, could be a potential sign of fraudulent activity. Additionally, if pricing seems too good to be true, or if there's just details that don't make sense about the transaction, we would recommend taking an extra second and making sure that you are in fact transacting with who you intend to be. Lastly, the driver picking up the vehicle, if they are not affiliated with the company that you had intended to dispatch the vehicle to, that is a telltale sign that fraud may be happening. You can ask for things like insurance documentation, certificate of insurance. You could ask to see the driver's license and help match that against the information that you know to be true. Regardless, Central Dispatch is doing all that we can to help provide the circumstances for a very secure transaction, but we always encourage our users to do their own verification and vetting to make sure that they're staying safe as best as possible.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Caleb. Everyone plays a role here in combating fraud in the industry. Another question that we saw was around insurance, and the question around, why is it possible for carriers with expired or no insurance to operate? So I want to, assure everyone first and foremost that our verification process does ensure that carriers have both operating authority as well as valid insurance on file before they're activated. We also do monitor insurance status on an ongoing basis. But the truth is, insurance can lapse, it can be canceled. And, I'll go back to that statement around everyone has a role here. We're verifying insurance at onboarding. We're looking for evidence of expired or canceled insurance. But at the same time, we'd recommend that you also verify insurance before you dispatch each vehicle. Make sure it's still active, and that you feel confident that that protection is there.
This next question is a great one. I reported a company, nothing was done. What are you guys doing about fraud when I report it? Well, I first would like to say I hope that that's not the case. We always want to make sure that our customers are feeling heard and that reports of fraud are taken seriously. In fact, Central Dispatch does take every single report of fraudulent activity very seriously, and we do perform a full investigation. To that end, you may not always hear back immediately around actions that we're taking. In fact, we may not always provide the results of those investigations, but we do want to reassure everybody that when fraud is reported, we open up a full investigation. We may also reach out to you. So pay attention to any phone calls or emails that you may receive from Central Dispatch asking for a little more information around what you've seen. But in the end, ultimately, what we'll do is if we do identify fraudulent activity has occurred, we will take action and remove companies that should not be on the platform for everybody's safety. We also always recommend that if you are a victim of fraudulent activity, maybe a stolen vehicle, we always recommend reaching out to local law enforcement, filing a police report in the jurisdiction where the theft occurred, so that you can get all the help that you need to help recover this vehicle.
Another question that we saw was around our rating system. A statement saying, the rating system is flawed, people can lie. Of course, that's true that people can lie in ratings. However, ratings are a really effective tool within marketplaces to help drive confident decisions and provide transparency about the history of different companies. I'll go back to my Amazon example, where before you decide to buy anything on Amazon, you are looking at ratings to see what has been other people's experience when they purchased that item or purchased from that vendor. We recently updated our rating systems to allow detailed feedback on each transaction that can be published after a delay to help prevent any kind of retaliation, so that you don't have to fear, well, if I am honest and explain what happened here, that other party is then going to say something that's false about me, because you can actually have that rating held and only published, after which the other entity does not have a chance to respond. They can only submit their own rating. Ratings are visible on company profiles before deciding to do business with someone else. And we highly recommend taking a look at those ratings, looking for anything that might not be fraudulent, but something where you just don't want to get into a business relationship with that other party.
We also received another comment around booking with fake carriers. Somebody had mentioned an experience they had in which they booked 4 times with fake carriers. That's not the experience that we want to provide, and that's not the experience we expect you to have here at Central Dispatch. But we do want to be transparent in saying that fraud is on the rise. Fraud isn't just a Central Dispatch issue. In fact, it's an industry-wide issue that we are combating right now. We're paying very close attention to some of the schemes that bad actors are using, including posing as companies, being fraudulent in very many ways. But really, fraud is a very small percentage, and a very small percentage of all the transactions that happen within Central Dispatch. But when it does happen, we understand it's a very negative experience. We are investing heavily in our processes, in our people, and in our technology to find different ways to help identify fraudulent activity before it occurs. And we're also providing users many different ways that they can actually perform their own vetting and do their own due diligence in identifying carriers. Lainey mentioned some great tips about the rating system, checking out company profiles, seeing how long somebody has been on Central Dispatch, and how they've interacted with others are all great tools that you can use to identify whether a company is going to be acting in good faith or not. We've got another great question around, is it possible to FaceTime applicants to verify identity, verify the truck, verify the license information? Really great question. And to be transparent, we do recommend keeping as much as your communication with individuals on the platform, keeping it on the platform as much as possible. While making outbound phone calls and speaking with applicants may not necessarily be a bad idea, we also recommend taking advantage of the many tools that we have on our platform, such as the rating system, the company profile, the FMCSA verification checklist, and other tools that we provide to help provide you that peace of mind that you are working with the person that you should be to have this vehicle moved.
One of the other questions we received was around, why are fraudsters or bad actors able to get information off of the load board? I understand the concern here, and it's one of the many reasons why we make fraud prevention one of our top priorities. What I'll say is these fraudsters are they're sophisticated. They're constantly evolving their tactics to appear legitimate. And in some cases, they are able to pose as real carriers or real brokers, at least initially. But we're working really hard to tighten our access controls and respond to that evolution in these new tactics, so that only verified active carriers and brokers can access any kind of load information. Also really important to mention, we only show on the load board the information that is absolutely necessary for a carrier to make a decision about whether that is an appropriate vehicle for them to move. Do they have the right equipment? We absolutely do not show the VIN information on our load board. There is no need for that information to be shared at that stage, and we would not do that. We are using automated detection tools and manual review at onboarding. We are continually investing in ways to monitor user behavior after a customer joins, because we know that fraud doesn't always show up on day one. And we need a way to monitor behavior on an ongoing basis and proactively take action at the sign of anything suspicious. This next question is one that we've addressed, but a bit from different angles. So I do want to revisit it and add a few pieces of information here. This question is around, what does Central Dispatch do to ensure carriers are properly vetted? But it has the added statement of, I see many carrier haulers operating with illegal papers taped to their windows. So we understand your concern, and you're not alone in noticing questionable behavior like MC numbers taped to a window. So as we've discussed, at Central Dispatch, we are verifying each new carrier's authority before allowing them on the platform. We're looking at their authority to operate, their insurance. We're exploring ways to look at the individual's identity before they're allowed to operate. But that said, we can't prevent fraud on our own. It's really going to take everyone playing their role here to combat fraud in the industry. So when you think about that piece of paper that has an MC number taped to a window, pickup locations, the place where the vehicle is sitting when it is picked up, they need to play their part as well. So when the carrier shows up to pick up that vehicle, check for the named driver on the dispatch sheet and see if the person standing there is the driver that's named, and watch for anything that feels off. So if you see incomplete documents, you see temporary numbers, a taped up sign, call the shipper, ask them some questions, make sure that you feel confident that this is the right person and the right company picking up this vehicle, because it is going to take everyone working together to keep the Central Dispatch marketplace, but really the industry at large, safe.
We've got another question around why we would allow brokers without valid bond to still post details and post loads on Central Dispatch. They mentioned that this puts carriers at risk of not getting paid, and it happens more and more often. I want to thank whoever shared this question as well, because this is something that's very important to us. We do not unknowingly allow brokers to post loads without valid bond information. Verifying bond and insurance is one of the requirements in order to actually make it onto Central Dispatch. But there's also some things that we are going to be introducing soon as well that will help individuals identify whether somebody has the right credentials and whether they actually have an active bond. We always encourage you to go to the FMCSA's website, check out a company's history. Their bond information will always be present on the FMCSA website as well for you to verify and identify whether or not something is still active and in place, so that you can make better decisions. Somebody asks, why is it allowed for multiple brokers to post the same vehicle at the same time? Shouldn't VIN be mandatory to prevent duplicates? They also mention the same vehicle is posted by different brokers. You can be dispatched vehicles that are already been dispatched by somebody else. This is a great call out and a great question. With this, I'd respond, at Central Dispatch, there are certain cases and certain situations where a vehicle owner may work with multiple brokers at the same time. They may shop around. They may try to find the one that they feel is the best for them in their situation. And to that end, you may see the same vehicle posted multiple times. We do understand that this may create additional noise in the marketplace, and it may be confusing for carriers in being able to understand what really is out there and what's available to be picked up. We are actively working on ways to improve how we detect and manage duplicate posts. We are working with our brokers and other customers to help educate and make aware on different ways that they can manage their own business. But when they do appear to be part of suspicious or abusive behavior, we absolutely take action, and we take it very seriously.
Another question that we received was really around multi-factor authentication and the security protocols we have in place before accessing the Central Dispatch platform. And the statement was, asking for a code every time I log in from the same device is annoying. Aren't you able to recognize the devices and provide security that way? And I understand the annoyance. I do. But what I'll also say it is best practice to use multi-factor authentication at every login. And it's an even elevated level of security to always authenticate through phone versus email because it is less susceptible to being compromised by bad actors. Recognizing it is an extra step, it takes a little bit of time, but it is very well warranted in helping to make sure that no one is accessing your account who is not authorized to do so.
This next question involves payment and post-delivery protection. Somebody asks, how can carriers be protected when dealers and shippers don't pay? They also mention that brokers may not pay when the vehicle is being delivered. To that end, we would say that we understand that payment is a major concern for carriers. So we always want to make sure that carriers get paid and that they feel comfortable conducting business on Central Dispatch. Central Dispatch does not handle or facilitate payments directly. It's not something we have historically done, but we do provide tools to help users identify trustworthy brokers and avenues for individuals to report instances of non-payment and fraudulent activity. Soon, we also plan to introduce payment facilitation options to help make these transactions more secure and reliable. So we have heard you. We do understand. It is something that we'd like to roll out in the future. Don't currently do it now, but we still do encourage you to take advantage of the other tools that we have provided to help identify whether somebody is going to be acting above board or not.
And I think the last question we want to hit today was one that we heard around seeing all this fraud. So, why didn't we have these problems with the old system? Why should we pay what we're paying today for a service that can't prevent fraud? And I understand that. I wish we could prevent all the fraud that's occurring in the industry. But truly, fraud is an industry issue. It is up across the industry, not just on the Central Dispatch platform. It's on other platforms. It happens upstream and downstream of platforms in both the digital and the physical environment. I will assure you that it still represents a very small percentage of all the vehicles that are moved, all the transactions that take place on our platform and in the industry at large. But I understand that when something happens, it is impactful and has an outsized impact. And so we are taking it extremely seriously. It is our top priority right now at Central Dispatch to help ensure that the industry can continue to move vehicles safely and securely. At the end of the day, everyone has a role to play in combating fraud. We are playing a strong role. We want to arm all of you with the tools to execute safe and secure transactions. And together, we can definitely make a dent in this industry issue. At the end of the day, everything that we do here at Central Dispatch starts with you, our clients. Keep bringing us your questions, keep bringing us your input, because it's helping us to shape a safer, a better experience for everyone.